encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network. Welcome to Preachers in Training. This is the podcast on which we discuss all things preaching and ministry. We're coming to you from the Freed-Hardeman University Sports Center, where the exhibits are all abuzz for the 87th annual Freed-Hardeman Bible Lectureship, something or other. I'm Robert Hatfield, and I'm with Chad Landman, but live and in the flesh.
Hey, man.
This hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah. I don't know that it may have not. Well, it has happened, but it's been over a decade at least, probably.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, many moons ago, you came to my office when I preached in Pulaski, Tennessee.
Yes, I remember.
And we moved from there 10 years ago this summer. So that's...
Wow.
That is happening. Yeah.
Time. How does it work, man? Wow.
I don't know. I don't understand it. Whoa, wait a minute. Is this about
Am
to
I
be
on the fourth episode?
Preachers in Training, episode 4. The video may not even work
I got
anymore.
within the top 5. That's
I know.
amazing.
What about this?
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if the video is even still there, but we were talking about avoiding burnout for youth ministers.
There we go.
The audio is
back
still
when
there.
I was still a youth minister.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Even that's been a long... Man, I wish the thumbnail would load. That would be awesome.
But that's okay, because the Wi-Fi in here...
I know.
How does it work? We
How
don't
does it
even know.
work? That was before we did seasons or anything. So, anyway, this is fun. How are you?
Good. You enjoying lectures this year?
Yes. I mean, I'm tired.
Yes.
And we're recording this on Tuesday morning of lectureship week.
Yeah.
I feel like it's already been a week, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we're here for it. It's good.
I'm enjoying it immensely. You're right, but I am absolutely worn out already. And, it's not a full week thing for me.
Okay.
I usually come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I
Yeah.
usually have to get back because I've got a regular Bible class I teach on Wednesday nights, and it's just easier to not have to get a sub, and not mess up the series and things like that. So
I agree.
it's good, and but I love being here. This is one of those things that I force myself to do every year, and what I mean by that is that I have to make time for it because I can always come up with an excuse to say, well, maybe I don't go to lectures this year. I'll just catch some stuff online and stuff like that. And when I always make the decision to come, I'm always like, I don't have time for this. And by the time I'm done,
You're glad you were here.
I've had my cup filled. I've had, rekindled relationships. I've been able to have dinner and lunch with some people that I didn't plan on. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's always good. My experience is a little different because I'm right across the street.
Right.
So I was
you
in the
live
office
here
this
in
morning.
Henderson now.
That's
yeah.
a weird thing.
That is so. It's still not getting used to it, huh?
But I'm not a townie.
Is
right?
this your? No, you're
Tell
not.
Tell me I'm not a townie.
Well, you're in the process of becoming a townie.
Somebody said I'm a frownie.
Yeah.
Who went to Freed and then moved. Now, but I think a true frownie is someone who came to Freed
terrible term.
and never left.
Yeah.
I think that's a real frownie.
Yes, I think
no
so.
offense, because I love these people.
Yes.
Anyway. Chad is the education minister for the Graymere Church of Christ in Columbia, Tennessee, and we have lots of fun together, and, we go way back, and it's good to be here with you today.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Well, hey, thank you so much for thinking of me.
Chad is usually here in November or December for our annual gift guide, and I thought maybe today we could talk about not just tech recommendations, but we'll have to talk tech, because what else do we talk about?
Right.
Apparently burnout for youth ministers.
Right.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
By the way, I meant to look at the date, January the 15th, 2013.
So 11 years ago.
It's 11 years ago now. Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
That cannot be.
Yeah, it's not.
We're
not old. It's not. That's not possible.
No, not at all. We're talking today, speaking of not old but new, the opportunities and liabilities of new technology. Before we hit record, we were saying, okay, new technology is a relative term. Some people are more techie than other people. I mean, to say things like technology isn't going anywhere, it's here to stay, even that in and of itself is an antiquated thing.
Right.
I guess, though, by saying that, we're saying, hey, listen, preachers, you got to embrace it. COVID taught us that. Many people had to get up to speed quicker than they wish that they would have had to.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who are fluent in all things Zoom.
Yes.
Because of COVID. But, even beyond that, don't you think? We need to be techie in as much as we can be. We
exactly.
need to be techie people.
We need to be aware.
Okay.
I think that's a good word to say. Is we need to have a digital awareness. We need to be relevant.
Okay.
We hear that word quite a bit in church, right?
Yeah.
We think, are we being relevant with these ministries? Are we being relevant with this technology? And so we need to be relevant. But the thing that I think about is that, we need to embrace the technology, but we also need to set boundaries.
Okay.
We need to make sure that the technology is not the focus, that the focus stays on Jesus and his church.
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously, you would agree with that, but so often we get carried away with the programs and the technology behind those and the marketing and the how is this going to look to the congregation and we forget to say, well, Jesus is at the center of everything. That's and so if you keep that as the focus and then you move outward, if you keep Jesus as the centerpiece, I think, and you move outward from that, I think that is a very good model as far as thinking about media in ministry and using technology in our churches.
So technology is not the savior.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely
and to say
not.
that out loud like that, it's like, well, duh.
Yeah,
but
it has to be said
like that.
Exactly.
Sometimes we treat it as though it is. Yeah.
And we think that, and we see churches all the time, bigger churches, big and small, that are using technology in incredible ways. But at the same time, sometimes they've lost their focus on what's really important, and we don't want to do that. There's always the Ira North book, Balance. I always go back to that book. Thinking about balance, and that just is a universal application with everything. And when it comes to technology, there needs to be a healthy, good balance there.
Awesome.
And I think we can use it in incredible ways, but also, go on retreats, put it away sometimes as well.
So when we talk about newer technologies, clearly social media is not a new technology anymore. We both remember when it was, when you had to have a student email address to get on Facebook.
That's right. Hey, you want to hear something really interesting?
Yes.
We're at Freed-Hardeman, my alma, and I'm an alumnus here, and I was the first person to sign up Freed-Hardeman on the Facebook.
Are you serious?
I was sitting in my dorm room in the fall of 2004, waiting on Interface to start, the introductory thing that all freshman students go through. I was 23 years old. I had my own laptop because I was coming from the military. And I'm sitting in my 4-man room waiting on my other 3 roommates to get there because I was there a day early. And I literally go, and I'd sign up for Facebook, and I use my student email, and they're like, Freed-Hardeman's not part of our network. Would you like to add them?
What?
And so I was the one who added Freed-Hardeman to the Facebook at that point.
That is fantastic.
Isn't that crazy?
So we have you to thank.
You have me to absolutely not thank for what has
I'm not responsible for Mark Zuckerberg.
I'm not responsible. I probably should have not have told that story now.
That's funny. So let's talk about some of the newer things that are emerging. And, we jokingly talked about, some of these things aren't new. Clearly, you and I were on a podcast together 11 years ago. So even podcasting isn't new.
Right.
But when we talk about new technologies, a lot of this comes with like machine learning, artificial intelligence.
Well, that's one I wanted to hit on first, is because we use that. That is such a buzzword now, as AI. AI in everything.
Right. AI it's kind of like used to be if you put a little lowercase I in front of something like iPhone. I remember the I Know campaign at Freed-Hardeman. So now the relevant thing is to just say something AI.
Exactly. And what we need to understand from a technology point of view is that AI has been around for quite a long time.
Okay, yes.
Google has been using a form of AI for its algorithm, for search algorithm, since 2006.
There you go.
Facebook has been using it since 2009 as a way to predict users' behavior, to serve up ads, to serve up content that they think that they would like to scroll through and things like that. And so this kind of stuff has been generative AI has been around for a long time. What we're talking about is what changed in March of last year was with OpenAI and them releasing this natural language chatbot that you can converse with, that you can talk with, that will actually talk to you like a human. We have not reached the point, and this is getting a little deep, but we have not reached the point of what they call artificial general intelligence, meaning a completely self-sufficient system that can think for itself.
Right.
But with the introduction of OpenAI last year, a lot of people in the techno and stuff like that really thought, well, artificial general intelligence, AGI, is 20, 30 years off.
Yeah.
Now they're thinking it's more like 5 or 10 years. Because by 2030, things could look drastically different.
Wow.
Things could look incredibly amazing with that, but also there's a lot of fear that comes from that. And so we have to understand that AI is a general catch-all term that has been used for quite a while, but also the AI that we're talking about now versus the AI that was used in Google and Facebook back in the 2010s is built on the same principles, but not the same thing.
So let's unpack a little bit, because you said
that's a lot. Sorry,
you can talk to this open AI in normal language, so
natural language. Yeah.
Many moons ago, it was all ones and zeros.
Yes.
And then I remember a long time ago, I learned HTML code so that I could build my own websites.
Yeah.
But it was weird stuff. Like anytime you wanted to enter down to the next line, you did open bracket, BR, close bracket.
Yes.
Or if you wanted to insert a link to something, you open bracket, A space, HREF
and then equals
quotation marks, HTTP://
You're taking me back.
Yeah, and then you put the text that you want, like click here, and then you did open bracket / backslash, right?
Right, yeah.
A close bracket. And it's like, that's how you knew. But you couldn't just say, hey, computer, select this and make it a link. You had to be like, do all this. And, of course, there's all these other, programming languages these days. AI and this natural language AI means I can ask the computer, the app, the whatever.
You're asking a server farm is what you're asking.
Okay, right. So
that's what you're literally
somewhere
asking.
This is translating back into some back-end language that the computer understands.
Right.
But I don't have to interact with that. I can just say,
and what
hey, what's the temperature in China right now?
And what it's doing, and again, for it to... AI is a misnomer, a little bit of a misnomer.
Yeah.
It's using a form of intelligence, but what it's taking from is a huge data set called an LLM, a large language model.
Okay.
And what they have done is fed gigaquads and just petabytes of information into these servers, into these computer systems that computer can draw from. So if you're actually, the free version of ChatGPT only runs up to a certain time.
Okay.
If you ask it about current events, if you ask it about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict right now, it's not going to have anything in Gaza that's happening right now. It's not going to have anything on that that's current information. And in fact, it's going to tell you, hey, I can only take up to events of, I think that they've updated it now to like November of 2023.
Okay.
So they can only take it up to that certain point. And so what you're going to have is this, whatever is fed into it. So it's not something that is going out there and is crawling everything and thinking on its own yet.
Right.
That's general intelligence. That's the artificial general intelligence that's coming in a decade or two, and that will be a huge change. This is the first step.
Okay.
Something like OpenAI is the first step towards getting to that. But you're right. I can go into OpenAI right now. I can say, write me a website or make me a web page that has these elements on it and make it this color and align it with this and make sure it looks good on a phone. And it will pop it out within seconds.
Wild. That's wild.
Write me 350 words on Romans chapter 12.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly accurate. Now, that's the thing about this is that it sometimes can be wrong.
Okay.
It's not infallible, so it can sometimes be wrong, and sometimes the facts are misconstrued because it will take into account all the things that have been fed into it. Some of that has been fed into it is misinformation. Some of that has been fed into it is stuff that is not factually correct. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're getting into how this relates to ministry, right? Because there are things, we're calling this opportunities and liabilities. You mentioned an example of an opportunity. First of all, let's say this, like if somebody is wanting to, and our audience, right? You're listening to a podcast, perhaps you are of a technical persuasion. If somebody's interested in interacting with some of these forms of artificial intelligence, one we're hearing a lot about these days, ChatGPT. What does the GPT stand for? Do you know?
Maybe you asked me, and now I can't remember what it's called. It's general.
What?
Oh, I cannot think of what it actually means. It's a potential candidate. It's for like a beta or something, I believe.
Okay. Generative pre-trained transformer? Would that be correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's versions, just like there is versions on your phone of like iOS 13, 14, 15. There are versions of ChatGPT that have improvements, that have differences.
Yes.
GPT-3 is mainly what everybody is using on the free app.
Okay.
You have to pay for.
Yeah.
It's a subscription, just like everything else is these days.
Right.
You have to pay for GPT-4, and that comes with, up-to-date, stats and figures and things like that you can pull from.
Yeah.
Recordings, all sorts of stuff. You can generate images and sometimes even videos and things like that. So.
Okay. So we could do this on a variety of ways, right? There is an app that you can use. There are websites that you can go to, ChatGPT. I mean, if somebody's like, I don't even know how to do the AI, where do they start?
But see, that's the thing, is that you literally just go to ChatGPT, you go to their website, you don't even really have to sign up for an account. You can actually do it without an account.
Okay.
And you can download their app.
Right.
And so basically, I mean, the options are unlimited. You can ask it anything you want.
Okay.
Case in point.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law was getting married this fall. She took my wife, who is her sister, on a trip to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And I said, this would be interesting. And I said, check this out. And I said, plan a 2-day trip. I literally typed this into ChatGPT.
Okay.
Plan a 2-day trip in Washington, D.C., hitting some of the most important national monuments and museums. And it generated 600 or 800 words and a complete itinerary down to what subway system I should take from where. What? And it was incredibly detailed, and it came up with it in 5 seconds. And it's just incredibly powerful. It's a great planning tool.
Yeah.
It's a great tool to use as, if we're talking for ministry purposes.
Yeah.
It is a great tool to use just like you would any other supplementary source.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, it's not the Bible, and obviously everything it says, because any commentator that you read on any particular scripture may have some type of bias. And you understand that. If you read, if I read Warren Wiersbe on a certain topic, he's going to have certain things that I don't agree with, that I don't believe Scripture says, but I know that I need to filter through those things.
Sure.
And so it's one of those things like on ChatGPT, you're going to have to use the same kind of, and I use this churchy word here, discernment. You're going to have to use the same kind of discernment. Jason Helton did, and I just came from his lecture, so this is foremost on my mind. But he says, with any kind of technology, we have to be discerning in a way that we're going to use it to be able to glorify God with it.
Yeah.
And so one of those things, when you're plugging this information in, hey, I need 350 words on Romans 13.
Right.
And it spits it out. You don't copy and paste that and read it verbatim.
No,
you don't give that as a, and it's just like anything else. You wouldn't copy and paste. You might quote some things. But you wouldn't copy and paste something from what is it, Logos, or you wouldn't copy and paste something from that. You've got to cater it and use it and again, discern that to make sure it's factually correct and things like that. So it's with any other tool, except this one's super fast. It has a super intelligence behind it.
Yeah.
It has a wealth of knowledge of the internet and a wealth of knowledge from basically every single resource that you could possibly think of.
Good.
And it's free, at least right now it is.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly valuable.
So you mentioned, like, I could see youth ministers or ministers planning retreats and things.
Yeah.
You're talking about planning itinerary.
Yeah.
I could see something like that, where the best places to eat, or whatever. I'm thinking about, I've used it for like planning social media content.
Yes.
I even
and stuff
used
like
it.
that you can just take verbatim, because that's not you're not preaching or teaching. That's not it's not going to be factually incorrect. But you can have it write 100 words on an announcement that you're giving out about something. So
that's true.
Yeah,
I've used it for like helping me write a thesis or like even a mission statement for various ministries or ideas. A lot of that stuff. That's really, really powerful stuff. And the thing is, like, and this is the way it is with so many of these technologies these days. The ideas are almost limitless. The ways that you could tap into this as a helpful resource.
Absolutely. And when you do that, you realize how useful these things are, and you start to say, well, we do fall into the trap of maybe using them too much or leaning on them too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And just like we would, maybe back in the old days, we would say we are relying on PowerPoint too much. It's kind of that
Nobody
fallacy.
really says that anymore.
Nobody says that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
you're right. But it was one of those things like, we don't want to rely on it too much. And so, it can become a crutch, but only if you make it. I use it very sparingly in my ministry to do things like you said, right? Social media posts, figure out announcements. Honestly,
so like kind of menial tasks.
Yeah, it's perfect for that. It's almost like having a secretary and figuring out, for instance, I was looking for something. I said, we're looking for a retreat spot for this men's retreat. I just plugged it into ChatGPT. I said, what is within a 150-mile radius of Columbia, Tennessee, find me the top 5 retreat spots under, and I even put a bunch of qualifiers on it, under, $3,000, $2,000, a night or something like that. And it legitimately came up with several things that actually worked out for us. We ended up choosing one of those event venues
from ChatGPT.
From ChatGPT.
Okay, that's cool.
And so it's just incredible for planning and stuff.
Right.
And I think what you're going to see, Robert, is when you get up to the point in where it's going to be factually correct about, say, biblical topics, really difficult biblical topics, it's going to get better and better and more factual as it goes on.
Well,
it's never going to be perfect, I don't think, because I don't think any system is perfect. And even when general intelligence is revealed, whenever that is, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I don't think that it's going to have accurate things as far as Scripture is concerned for biblical interpretation.
Right.
But it's just going to get better and better and better and better. So.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right, there's a lot of opportunities there. I mean, the liabilities of these technologies don't in any way imply that we should not use them. Really, it's more of a subjective thing than an objective thing in my mind. When we talk about, should I use this or that? I mean, it's like, I don't know. Should you? Does it fit your workflow well?
Right.
And there are some things you just can't cut corners with. Bible study, you can't. I want to be efficient in my study.
Yes.
So I don't want to be wandering around trying to find some resource. And I use Logos. It helps me out a whole lot to find things. They even have a new feature now where you can scan in the ISBN number of a print book that you have, and if it's in their library, it doesn't give you digital access to that resource, but it will say, hey, in this book on page 157, there's a paragraph about this.
Oh, neat.
So I just go and grab it and I open it up.
I did not
It's
know
amazing.
It did that.
Now, it's got to be obviously in their library, but anyway, whatever. So that's cool. I'm about efficiency. When it comes to AI in general, maybe ChatGPT, whatever, you just need to know yourself. And if that's going to present a temptation to, have it write your sermon for you or something,
right? Yeah.
Push the brakes, man. Back up off. You don't need to do that.
I think I've mentioned this to you before, but something that has always stuck with me was something that Dan Winkler told me.
Okay.
We were asking him about technology and about stuff like that. Again, this was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I asked him about that. I said, is it easier or is it more difficult today to be a minister with all the resources and technology that we have? And I thought I knew the answer. I thought, oh, absolutely, it's way easier today.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's exponentially harder today.
Really?
And I was like,
interesting.
Well, how can you say that? And he says, because you have to build filters. There's so much more information than what I had when I started preaching in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, I had 3 or 4 commentaries max that I would use for things, and now there's such a plethora of information and videos and ChatGPT and all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really stuck with me about that. And again, that discernment is key. That we have that.
That's a good point. Hey, I'm seeing a lot of people who are able to generate images and stuff.
Oh, yes.
Is that an AI? I mean, that's an AI thing, right?
It is. DALL-E in Midjourney. Those are the main.
Midjourney.
Yeah, they have weird names.
Okay.
They're DALL-E is owned by OpenAI. Midjourney is not. Midjourney is actually specialized through a Discord community.
Okay.
And you can find some
which is kind of like new Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can find some really interesting things. You can create some really interesting images. In fact, if you have scrolled Instagram for more than about 5 minutes, you have seen, I almost guarantee that you have seen
right.
A completely digital created image, not something that comes from something else. So there's a method of taking existing photos and making something out of those, which we've got all sorts of iPhone apps for that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But what we're talking about is digital creation from inception.
Got it.
Meaning it is coming from nothing. I'm literally telling a chatbot, I want a picture of an eagle on the top of a mountain with its wings spread wide over the earth, something like that, right? And it will create what it thinks that you want to say. And so you can actually go back with that, talking about natural language. You can actually go back with that and say, no, make the earth bigger, and it'll regenerate the image. No, I want to make the earth purple, and then just generate the image again. And it's actually really, really interesting to play with.
Wow. Okay. This is a great way if you're looking for like stock type images that are
landscape images, background images. Yeah. Oh, it's perfect for that.
It struggles with like faces and hands and stuff.
Faces and hands are problems because the artificial intelligence generator that generates these photos does not quite understand how light and surfaces interact with certain things. For instance, there was a photo that circulated a long time ago, and it's interesting. I mentioned this on a Christian podcast, but it was a picture of the Pope.
Oh, right.
And it came about, and it was incredibly convincing. Looked just like him.
Yeah.
And several publications, and when I say several, like 40 publications ran with this and was like, oh, this is a real photo.
Yeah.
And when they found out it was artificially generated, obviously, they said, well, we got to go back and issue a retraction because you could tell he had 6 fingers on one hand. And there was a couple of smears on his cheek from his glasses kind of meshing with his cheek because these things are smart, but they haven't quite figured out how everything interacts with reality. And so you'll notice those telltale signs. And I'm telling you, those things are not going to be around for very much longer. There will be something that happens, and I don't know when or how or what, but there will be something that happens with a significant figure in celebrities or government. And again, I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories, but in the next, I would say in the next few years, there will be something that comes out that is a totally fabricated image, but it sparks huge controversy.
With something. And the Pope thing did, at least initially, right?
Yeah. The Vatican had to come out and issue a statement on that and say, hey, that's not, he wasn't wearing that.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. What are you talking about? So it's incredibly interesting that we're going to have to, and I keep going back to that word, discernment. Because if you couldn't trust anything on the internet before, you really can't now. We're probably months, if not just several years away from the first completely artificially generated movie. Like a full-length movie. That is going to be one of those movies. Like they can do small videos now and short videos now, but we're going to see a feature film that may or may not be in movie theaters that is completely artificially generated in the next 3 or 4 years. Anyway, that's getting down the road, and that's going well into the rabbit hole, but that's something interesting to think about.
Well, and the longer this stuff goes, I mean, the better these tools will become.
Absolutely.
Not making the guy have 6 fingers.
Well, the best thing about it is the training. So you would feed that image back into these things and say, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Make sure that you don't do that again. Now, it's going to do it again, but you train. Humans still have to train these things by feeding it data, feeding it points, all sorts of different stuff.
So again, there are opportunities, but there are also liabilities. I mean, as this goes on, we're going to, like you said, discernment, but even like the concept of, well, what really is true and what isn't.
Do you know what the number one usage of ChatGPT is?
No.
It is high schoolers feeding their friends' papers into the text of the paper into ChatGPT and telling it to rewrite it. And again, we look at that and we go, well, that's cheating. That's not doing the work that you said that you've done. And we understand the honesty and morality behind that. But a high schooler that forgot to do a paper the night before, it's an incredibly tempting thing to say, wow, that's a huge temptation of doing something that I might be able to get away with. And it's pretty convincing. But at the same time, there's all sorts of, there's going to have to be regulations and there's going to have to be checks that are going to be put in place for these kinds of things as well.
I know university professors are concerned about this. Like you said, like English teachers in high school, lit, all that. This is going to be an issue. But there again, does this mean that we ought to mount our pulpits and condemn the whole use of it. I mean,
no.
It's just not that simple.
It is not that simple. We would like to say that it is. We would like to go up there and say, no, we got to abstain from this. No.
Right.
It's going to become one of those things that instead of using Google, you're going to be using something like a ChatGPT in the future.
Yeah.
You're going to be talking to, and you may even talk to it through an earpiece.
Right.
Or talk to it on your phone or your device using natural language, just talking to something. And if you think about it, there's all sorts of wide-ranging implications for something like that. When something becomes that commonplace, as commonplace as Google is to us today, it is going to be an interesting conversation with kids, especially. I always go back to children and kids and what our kids are growing up with. And if a kid is talking with ChatGPT like it's a friend, and we do something as parents to say, no, you can't have that anymore, and we take the phone away, we're not just taking the technology away, we're taking a relationship that they have formed, whether it's false or not.
Right.
We're taking a relationship away from them, which is, wow, that's interesting to think about, because that's when you get on this slippery slope of, this technology is really useful, but then in some ways it could be very dangerous for us, and we have to, again, make sure that we're watching out for that.
So, several years ago, Facebook started talking about the metaverse, and they rebranded themselves as Meta.
Yeah.
Even before that, you go back to like Star Wars, and you have these droids that are alive but aren't human.
Yeah.
And
they have personalities, but they're just robots.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you think about how endearing those characters become to not only the other characters who are more human, but also still yet others who, all of us who are watching those things.
Yeah.
All of that was like science fiction, even the metaverse thing. I mean, we all kind of scoffed at it at first. Meanwhile, we're sitting here, and the end of last week, Apple officially, released to the public, for those who have $3,000+ to spend on it, this headset where you can interact with your technology. And I mean,
spatial computing is what they're calling
version
it.
1.0. I mean, it's going to get more and more prevalent and smaller. And
a lot of people don't realize this right now, because they see is an expensive $3,000 VR headset. But what just happened with them is it's an iPhone moment. We have fundamentally made another turn in the digital world because Apple decided to step into this space.
Right, that's true.
And it will be, because of the power that they have and the money that they have, it will be they're going all in with this. And that should make everybody stand up and pay attention and go, what does this look like in 2034?
Yeah.
Am I wearing a headset to do all of my computing? And we would say, well, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Well, we would look at our BlackBerries and our Nokia phones in 2001 and say the same thing about iPhones. I'm not going to be looking at a phone screen and scrolling for hours, am I?
Right.
No, there's no way. But we are.
Here we are.
And here we are. And so, again, that's one of those things that we have to think about is, these companies are out to make money, but a company like Apple, and again, I sing Apple's praises a lot, but I also tell, hopefully try to say what they're doing wrong as well.
Yeah.
They are before our eyes are creating a whole new way of computing.
Wow.
And getting work done and, entertaining ourselves. And it's very individualistic. I don't like that about that. But the crotchety old man in me says no.
Yeah.
There's no way. Even me, Mr. Tech Guy, is like, I really don't want to put something on my face.
Yeah.
But that may be the way of the future,
So here we sit in a post-COVID world where many churches are still trying to figure out, how do I get the live streamers back?
Right.
Do we even keep doing a live stream? We're having those kind of conversations. We're already seeing people moving toward a more isolated, context for themselves. Maybe life in the church seems a little different, for them. I'm just thinking, and you're talking about this from a kid's perspective. I mean, you take away the phone, you're also taking away an artificial friend,
a
relationship.
Yeah.
So, hey, we need to preach about the importance of community. We need to preach about the importance of getting together, of overcoming the difficulties of relationships and working toward love and unity and peace.
Yes.
I mean, it's easier for me to say, okay, that person offended me, I'm just cutting them off.
Yeah.
And now I can go to this artificial relationship that I have tailor-made for me, and they won't abandon me or whatever.
All of these devices, the ones that you put on your face, the ones that you hold in your hand, the ones that you type on and you compute on and you do get work done on, all of these devices promise one thing. They promise connection. Mm-hmm. And what I've always said is all of this technology promises connection, but connection, true connection, is only available through one organization on this planet, and that's the church that Jesus Christ died for and built.
Yeah.
And if we teach that to our kids, teach those relationships that, I mean, you and I sitting here in person, even though we're using technology to get this message out, we're talking in a conversation with one another. We're seeing 2,717 people in Lloyd Auditorium here in just a few minutes that are going to be singing praises together in the same place to our amazing God. And that is just such an incredible opportunity that we have to teach our next generation of children that this is true connection. Yeah. What technology provides is convenience. Convenience and entertainment. Yeah. And it's not necessarily true connection, even though it promises that.
Right. It's a great point. This year, I'll just say this for what it's worth. This year at Henderson, our sermon theme is I love his church. And the reason why we're doing that, and this is what I pointed out to the congregation in January when I introduced the theme, we talk about, and rightly so, the importance of a personal relationship with Jesus. You got to have it.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a relationship with Jesus that isn't personal.
Right.
But we also need to sing the praises of a corporate relationship with Jesus, because the reality is, like you just said, Jesus died for you individually. That's true. John 3:16, a host of other passages. But Jesus also died to purchase his church, which calls us to not just the personal relationship, but a communal relationship, corporate relationship. And technology can help facilitate connection, but it certainly doesn't take the place of it.
It can aid. It can assist. It can do all those things. It can help us reach people with the gospel.
Yeah.
It can help. I mean, think about what the apostles would have done with the technology that we have today.
Yeah, right.
Think about what the apostle Paul would have done with
I would love to
Twitter.
know.
I mean, it would be really interesting to know.
Maybe ChatGPT can tell me. Tell me what Paul would do with you.
And exactly. And it's just a matter of saying, I know what they would do with these things. They would have used it to glorify God in all things.
Yes.
They would have used ChatGPT to glorify God in all things. They would have done, I mean, just fill that in for every single thing that you think about technology. Yeah. And that is what those people would have done. And so it's incredibly important for that community relationship. Also, the individual relationship. The individual relationship is what technology wants to champion and promise. It's very isolating, if you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, it is.
People are more isolated. We're more connected than ever,
yeah,
but we're more isolated than ever. That's what all the studies show.
Right.
And what the church hopes to do is to, obviously, what it does do is bring people together through Jesus.
Great point. You're staying on top of all this in part because of your digital parenting workshop that you do. And, earlier you said you're thinking about the implications of ChatGPT and a parent-child relationship. And I thought, yep, no wonder Chad's staying on top of this. You travel all over the country doing these workshops, right?
I do. I just talked to a guy from Idaho just a few minutes before I joined the podcast about going up there.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'll be in Ohio. I'll be in Florida. I'll be in Texas this year, as well as around Alabama and Tennessee, of course.
Yeah.
And if you've got any questions about that, and I wanted to kind of put this plug out there,
Please.
Robert.
Yeah.
Graymere, I've talked with our elders. Graymere has agreed to sponsor me for one trip, a mission trip to present this to a church that couldn't necessarily afford it.
Wow.
That's what I was talking with about the Idaho congregation.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford, $1,000, $1,500 for plane tickets and things like, and so Graymere is going to see this as a mission effort and going to send me out to do this for free of charge for a church. So if you think that if you're out in a place that is considered outside the South, I guess it is in a mission field. If you're in California or Idaho or Washington State or New Hampshire or any of those places that would be, the church is not incredibly large, get in touch with me. Go to digitalparentingworkshop.com. Or just view the videos on there. This is not the full-time job. Yeah, that's a long list, isn't it?
Look at all those previous workshops and speaking.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I've done 88 of these. I just finished my 88th one at Middle Tennessee Christian School in Murfreesboro just a few weeks ago, and it was very, very good.
Is that?
So and I'd like to say that I do regular videos on YouTube, but you know how that goes.
I do know.
And I've been trying to put my my videos of my workshops on the YouTube channel so that you can see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Get in touch with me. And there's a contact form there on the site, or you can email me directly, chad.landman@gmail.com. And of course, I work at the Graymuir Congregation full time, so it would be it's difficult to be going all the time. I'm very limited in what I can do.
Sure.
But Jason Helton is another one, media outreach minister for the Madison Church of Christ. He's another one to reach out to. He's doing a analog faith and digital Babylon workshop.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very close to mine. He goes, he is my superhero.
Is he?
He is what I aspire to be. He makes me think that I did research, and then I hear what he says, and it's like, oh, he actually did research on this. So, but he's very good. Get in touch with him.
Yeah.
He's also very good as well on any of this kind of stuff.
That's cool. You can find Chad at Digital Parenting Workshop, Digital Parenting Workshop, easy for me to say, .com, and also Graymuir Church of Christ, Columbia, Tennessee. Chad, this has been really helpful. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate it, man.
It's always great to sit down with you. And like I've been thinking, like, we got to get together more than just the gift guide, but at the same time, like, you're busy, man. You got things to do.
So are you.
You can't just sit here and talk with me all the time. You can find us, Preachers in Training, every Thursday, thelightnetwork.tv, and our podcast partners. Hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. And subscribe to The Light Network on YouTube as well, and you can see our beautiful faces. It's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for being with us. Let's go preach the word.
I figured that